So we're up to 1 Corinthians 3:22, closing out this chapter. What a great chapter. Judgment seat of Christ. And the divisiveness of the Corinthians and how the two are connected. You're not so divisive. You stay within the framework of God's Word, you're going to get rewarded at the judgment seat of Christ. If not, none. So whether Paul or Apollos or Cephas or the world or life or death or things present or things to come, all things belong to you. He's talking to believers, whether divisive or not. Paul even stipulates that neither Paul nor Apollos nor Cephas nor the world nor temporal life nor physical temporal death, we fix that, nor things present nor things to come are to be boasted of, for they are all transitory. It is God who is the one, eternal God, who has brought all things to come to pass. Again, Paul said before this, you talk about Paul or Apollos, we're workmen. It's God that brings in the results. Paul's statement to this effect indicates that a number of the believers were indeed of that temporal point of view, especially relative to argue over who was the better, Paul or Apollos or even Cephas. The conclusion of the matter is that no Christian is to boast or glory in the wisdom and attainments of men in the absence of giving God all the glory. Even though you do a glorious thing, and God will give you glory, a reward of glory and other unimaginably great things in eternity. You can't leave God out. He's the one that gets the results for you, through you, before you, or if you don't do it at all, he'll find somebody else. For not even the achievements of Paul or Apollos or Cephas were accomplished except by God through each one of them. They were merely the workmen. Recall that Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 3:6-7, I planted, Apollos watered, but God was giving growth, so that neither is he who is planting anything, nor is he who is watering, but he who is giving growth, God. So it was God who brought forth the growth, the results. All that is boastable of Paul or Apollos or Cephas, or anyone, inevitably comes from God by the grace of God and accomplished by God, albeit through his workers. Isn't that great? The rest of eternity will have our volition. And we will do those things within the framework of godliness only. Yet it is God who provides the opportunities and decrees which ones you'll choose. What does it matter? It's a glorious eternity to look forward to. And it can only depend upon an all-seeing, all-knowing, omnipotent God. So we are not to put our trust in anything that is not of God. The reason is that all things, yes, all the blessings of God in the whole universe belong to the believer. Also the cosmos, the world itself, the processes of living and dying, the present and the future, are all to be viewed in relationship to God's purposes and plans for his people. That's us. We're well taken care of. And we have our eternity already well taken care of. Something to really, really look forward to. Now think about this. Your parents, when you were really, 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 really young, maybe hardly in diapers, hardly out of them, they provided everything for you. They gave you some latitude, but they were right there caring for you in those great moments of parent and child. Who do you think the eternal God is, with your capacities far expanded even beyond the angelic world? Gives you free choice to do nothing but good. He's still there right at your side, being all present, all omnipresent, all powerful, outside of the time frame, fully capable, and ready, willing, and able to provide for you, to decree those things that you'll choose to do for your most greatest enjoyment of eternity. So Paul can say to all believers, all things are yours, in the sense that everything that God has provided for believers is for the believer's benefit. Everything belongs to them. because they belong to Christ, and Christ belongs to God. Don't overthink this. Overthink about who you think God is and go further. Our finite minds only have the capacity to think finitely. God thinks infinitely. An infinite God decreeing your eternity. How grand that is. Then to conclude, Paul writes the final note of this chapter. And you belong to Christ, and Christ belongs to God. The grand conclusion stipulates that all believers belong to Christ and Christ belongs to God. So the believer's destiny is a grand one, an eternally grand one, unfathomably grand because Christ is unfathomably, think of that word. I can't fathom that. I can see what I can't fathom, but I can't see beyond what is fathomable. Unfathomably and supernaturally grand because God is unfathomably and supernaturally grand.